We're excited to have with us Nehme Abouzeid, who is the founder and president of LaunchVegas, and he has a long resume. We have so much to talk to him about today. Welcome.
Hey,
Thanks for
Nehme.
having me. Hey, hi guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, before I go into your experience, why don't you tell everyone? I know that you were chief marketing officer of the Golden Knights when they launched. You've worked for the Wynn. Talk a little bit about your experience and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. Thank you. I'm a lot like you guys. I think I came here 18 years ago and Northeasterner and really, Vegas has become my home, and I've adapted and grown with the city. So, I spent 9 years with Venetian Las Vegas Sands Corporation. I was very fortunate to come and enter the casino business at a time where it was becoming a global industry. Back then, very few people had heard of Macau, and there were really no Las Vegas style casinos in Macau at the time. So I spent 9 years opening properties for them and doing headliner deals on the Las Vegas Strip for entertainment for them. And I was also lucky enough later to go run brand marketing for Wynn Las Vegas for 4 years, which I really think is the top luxury brand in the industry, Vegas and globally. And I feel it still is. And so that was tremendous work experience. And then I got recruited by Bill Foley, owner of the Golden Knights, to go be his first chief marketing officer of what I really felt was a historic, pro sports team that ushered in the new era in Las Vegas. So that was a really a big privilege for me and a big thrill. And I was there when we unveiled the brand and the logo and sold the first T-shirts and caps. And that was an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm. And I've got to ask you, just on the Golden Knights front, were you there when there were discussions going on about Chance, the mascot?
I was there. We did the early drafts of what's it going to look like, what's the animal, what's the creative, I was in sketches basically. And then Chance came a little after I left, but it was an iterative process. So we considered a lot of different animals and, you need a furry mascot and you need a sharp-edged mascot. So that's why they kind of have two. But you got to have something huggable for the kids. It's part of sports. And so we went around from arena to arena, team to team. We did all our due diligence. But the people after me, you have them to thank for Chance, whether you love them or hate them. So.
That's funny. Well, let's keep with the Golden Knights because, obviously this was a huge thing for Las Vegas, and launching something like this, everyone said that, sports was not going to work in Las Vegas. And I won't say everyone, but a lot of people, big bulk. They didn't know if it would work. I'm sure it was a challenge for you. Then, of course, we have the 1 October shooting that happens right before the season's about to kick off. I mean, all these challenges that you faced, but yet the team just soared and everyone came out to watch this team. What was it like kind of kicking off the marketing for this?
Well, it was funny because I spent 4 years at Wynn, and Wynn is so pristine, and, the furniture's never out of place and there's never anything on the carpet. It's like so perfect that I wanted to work in a startup environment and I wanted to do something historic. So when I had the opportunity to go over to the team, I was the only local exec they hired. Most everyone was a sports exec from a different city, from a different team or a different sport. And they really didn't know Henderson from Summerlin. They really didn't have a lot of that, knowledge of how the casino industry work, how business partnerships and sponsorships work in the city. So I added value there. But for me, it was like, I knew that transplants like us really feel like Vegas has some culture. It has a sense of community, and we just needed a galvanizing element. And a pro sports team is that galvanizing element. And a homegrown one is even better than a relocated one because it's something that's authentic. So, we worked on ad campaigns and creative, and I wrote the first style guide for the brand. And we said, what do the Golden Knights stand for? And it was a lot of the lore of the military days of Bill Foley and service and valor and all that stuff. So it was fun putting all that together because it truly was a startup.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're from Boston. Dana and I both from the Northeast in Rochester, New York. So growing up around hockey was just something that was part of growing up. So finally having it be here as a part of our new home was really exciting. Did you find a lot of people having that same sentiment?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you can't swing a dead cat in Vegas without seeing a Golden Knights billboard or T-shirt or license plate. And I remember, putting all that strategy together with the sales team and with the operations team of like, here's the blueprint for an NHL team. Because, we were the 31st franchise. So there was somewhat of a blueprint, but then we had to adapt that remaining 20% for the uniqueness of Las Vegas. And, the tourists are highly concentrated on the Strip. The residents are all spread out across town. So I'll remember we did learn to skate programs at Desert Breeze Park and other parks in 115-degree weather. We were giving away street hockey sticks and street hockey balls. And I'm showing the owner, I said, Bill, 3,000 kids in 115-degree weather. I mean, do you know how amazing and transformative this is? Because we're not a cold weather town. You couldn't even buy street hockey equipment at Dick's Sporting Goods or Big Five. And so it really was transformative. But unless you have grassroots support, you'll never have ticket support, and we built that grassroots support, and it was just a fun ride and amazing to be a part of.
Well, with all your experience, I mean, you've done so much in entertainment and branding and marketing and sports, and now you have founded your own company, LaunchVegas, and I know you're doing a lot of consulting, and you're doing some consulting with the Madison Square Garden Sphere too. And I know right now in this time that we are in, so many people wondering if some of these projects are going to keep going. What do you know about that? And tell us a little bit about the Sphere, because we always love to know more. We see all the renderings and we're all in awe of it.
Yeah. Well, I can't say much on the proprietary side, but it is going to be a transformative project. I really believe that. I'm helping them on the strategy side and the marketing and such, and sort of the launch plan for it itself. But people need to remember about Vegas. It's 80% are repeat visitors. So repeat visitation thrives on new product, and maybe a new restaurant, maybe a new nightclub isn't as transformative. But when you have a building that is going to be almost a new medium unto itself with the tech that's going to be inside the building, it's going to be over 150,000 square foot round screen that'll be above you, to the sides of you. It'll be a sensory experience. You'll be able to hear, feel, smell, the entertainment that's or business that's being done in there. So it's going to take, really, it's going to be an experience. It's so immersive. And I know immersive is an overused word these days, but there'll be nothing like it in the world. And it's right for Vegas, because Vegas thrives on, iconic era defining projects that at one time people said, that's the craziest idea I've ever heard. I mean, look at the landscape of Las Vegas. It's all full of crazy ideas. People say, that'll never work. But I think this is going to be one of the most transformative projects in a long time. And it's actually the most fun project I've been a part of, only because it's very light on details right now. But once it's built and once it's open, people are going to be like, oh my God, this fits in with Las Vegas and how entrepreneurial and risk-taking people are here. And at the end of the day, that gets rewarded in Vegas.
And the Sphere construction is, I mean, the plans are still moving forward, right?
Well, if you read the papers, they're formally on a construction pause right now, but related to COVID-19. But it's still very much, one of the major multi-billion-dollar projects that's going to happen. So, it's exciting to be a part of. If you drive on Koval and Sands Avenue, you'll see it right there. And it's really impressive. The design, the footprint, and the technology that's going to be in the building. And it's funny because a few years ago, people said, there's not enough arenas in Vegas. And now people are saying, are there too many arenas in Vegas? So we always tend to overcorrect, but I truly feel like Sphere is adding something tremendously new to Las Vegas and allowing us to compete and bring trade shows here that may have gone elsewhere, but now they have a building like the Sphere where they can do a general session or a major product launch, and that puts us over the edge even more. So it's exciting, and it's a couple years away, but it's still very much going.
Yeah, and it's exciting right now because I think, talking about this kind of stuff seems normal, but in this time that we're in, everyone's talking about the challenge of, first of all, getting Vegas back open and then getting people to come here. So how do you see things going? I mean, just in your perspective, I mean, I know there's got to be phases and there needs to be a plan, but once we start getting people back, do you think Vegas will be back to normal in a couple of years, a year, 3 years?
Well, I mean, I certainly hope so. It really depends on whether there's a vaccine and then people feel like they can resume their old lives. And then this, gets to be something like the flu where they just live with, seasonal outbreaks that happen. But certainly if it becomes a permanent part of the new normal, then everybody's going to have to come up with protocol. The integrated resort experience will be vastly different. Can you imagine Encore Beach Club on a Saturday with 3,000 people and a DJ? And can you imagine that with social distancing? I mean, it really, the value proposition of Las Vegas is the sum of the parts. And if you start to strip away those parts, then all of a sudden, the switching costs of going to a San Diego casino, it becomes an easier decision to somebody. It's really about business with what are your barriers to entry and your switching costs? Can a consumer get a similar experience closer to their homes? But I truly think Vegas will be back. I think in part, the spirit of Americans will be like, let me go back to Vegas because it signals that things are back to some normalcy. And I think it'll come back. I severely hope so. The question is, we'll be able to do the business at scale that we normally did, or is it going to be a smaller, more curated experience?
Well, and speaking of smaller experiences, that's obviously not what Vegas was built on. Vegas was built on large scale experiences. And when you add something like social distancing into the mix, what does that do to the plans and really the infrastructure that's already in place on the Las Vegas Strip?
Well, I mean, you got to think of, you got 42 million people highly concentrated on the 4 Mile Strip for the most part. And then you have this high overhead cost of these hotels, 7,000 rooms at the Venetian, 2 million square feet of meeting space. They are built for mass tourism, and the return on investment is only there if if you can meet your overhead demand. So the overhead is extremely high. And I remember in 08, 09, people were cutting room rates like sub $100 a night because they said we need occupancy. And, a lot of the people who are really mindful of their brand was like, think about the psychological factor of room rates below $100, right? How do you sell a show ticket for $150 and then have room nights for $99? And so when you're a luxury brand, that psychology of that, comes into mind, because it's hard to kind of raise them up again if people in their mind think, oh, that's $100 hotel. So it's really, there has to be a significant enough amount of traffic. And then think about what the Raiders were going to bring. I heard a briefing that Raiders had over 30% of season ticket sales were out of market. Whereas the Golden Knights were more like only 10% were out of market. So the Raiders were truly going to bring 20, 30,000 visitors from out of state every Sunday. And, that was going to feed the hotels. That was going to have a tremendous multiplier effect to everybody. And all of a sudden, if that's a smaller event, it has repercussions for all the investment that we made the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, and Yeah, and to dive into that, I mean, when you talk marketing and everything, like Sean mentioned, and you mentioned pool parties, bottle service, nightclubs, all that were built on. So when you're marketing right now and you're sitting down to the table, is this something that you think folks are thinking, okay, what are we going to do to just change all that? Maybe come up with a completely different idea, or do you take what you had and try and make it fit, or are we going to see some maybe major changes in the types of experiences that we see here in a city like Las Vegas?
Yeah, I think it really, with this new protocol, there'll be kind of immediate, kind of low hanging fruit changes that are made, but then we're going to build it into the consumer experience, in the next 6 to 18 months, I would say, whether that means, more virtual events, and Vegas is the sort of location, but only maybe 100 or 200 people attend, but then it's broadcast to 50,000 people around the world. Virtual events or more kind of customized experience. I mean, personalization was really the key to Las Vegas, is making a guest feel like they're in a 300 room property, even though they're in a 3,000 room property. And that's really hard to do at scale, but like Wynn was excellent at it, Venetian, Aria, Bellagio, there's some really great players that are really excellent at doing personalization at scale. And really making you feel like you're a VIP, during your three night stay in Vegas. And so that's really the key. But yeah, eventually in the medium term, we'd have to innovate our product. Think about what we did in the 90s, where gaming was 60% of revenues of these hotels. And then there was this year by year transformation and evolution, where now when I left Wynn the last year, it was like, gaming was 30% of revenues and non-gaming was 70%. So, and that really it goes across most of the city, like 60-40 non-gaming to gaming. And that's because of the new products. But in the 80s, those were gourmet rooms, were discounted. They were all comped. Not everything was a revenue center or a profit center. And now in Las Vegas, every division kind of has to stand on their own and turn a profit.
Well, and there was a word in there that I think is really important for this time, and it's innovate. On the surface, we hear news reports about how there's a potential, second Great Depression coming, and there's a lot of doom and gloom in the headlines that we're reading and seeing on TV. But below the surface, is that innovation aspect of this time kind of an exciting thing to watch? Obviously, the circumstances surrounding it aren't exciting and happy, but is that process something that we should really be looking out for and kind of seeing as a bright spot?
Well, I think it's amazing how technology has allowed people to pivot really quickly. People like yourself, content producers, even consumer brands. They're starting to pivot. They're starting to deliver product virtually very quickly. So it hasn't taken months. People have responded in days and weeks, and people have become acclimated to that. And so I think consumers are going to understand that anything that affects Vegas is affecting the tourism industry on a macro level, and that Vegas will emerge as a leader in delivering guest service. And traditionally, that's been very high touch guest service. But maybe that'll become high-tech guest service. And maybe, we'll migrate to areas that we were kind of, COVID-19 nudged us to get to, but we were going to get there in 2 or 3 years, but maybe we get there in 6 months instead. So it is, everyone thrives on differentiation because of the Strip, because of how concentrated the 4 miles are, because there's 150,000 plus hotel rooms. Differentiation is key. When you go to Excalibur, it's a totally different experience than walking through the lobby of Bellagio. And people that come back to Vegas over and over, they appreciate that differentiation. And so I think what you're going to see is the operators on the Strip and in downtown, they're really going to innovate, and they're really going to put their thinking caps on. And you'll start to see people compete on cleanliness, compete on, public health scores. There'll be all these new metrics that come about, and that people are going to start to make their purchase decision based on that.
Right.
You know?
Well, and we were built on shows too. And I know you've launched things like La Rev, and I mean, we're built on live music, spectacular theaters. Do you think that will survive through it, and just got to find a different way to make it work? I mean, I guess so. My big question off that would be, just because so many people wonder, and you can give your opinion or not, but do you think we will bounce back and be as strong?
I do. I think there'll be some creative destruction. I think some things will fail. Some business models will fail, but I think, we'll bounce back as a city. And what that final footprint looks like, I don't know. But I think ticketed entertainment was already going through, some growing pains, because you had, the headliner era, the Sinatras giving way to the Cirques, but then you had the Cirques giving way to the DJs. And then now we're kind of at this, arms race of like, what do consumers want? And, back in the early 2000s, you would build an 1,800 seat theater because you'd expect a Broadway show to come and sit down. Now people are building nothing less than a 5,000 seater, because that's what you have to build to make a Lady Gaga pencil out in terms of economics. So, so there's always this, maturation process where things will fail and start to peter out. But now, those A-list headliners in a 5,000 seat theater is popular, as are the bigger arenas with sports so it's just naturally going to evolve. And, eSports is going to take shape, and just the consumer tastes are going to change naturally. And this probably is a catalyst to have things change, a little bit faster, because I don't know who's going to mount the $30 million show and take a risk on, one set of content when consumer tastes are just changing rapidly.
And speaking of esports, this is an arena where Las Vegas has kind of just dipped its toe in the water. Do you think that that's going to be something that really does start to take off in a big way in the coming months and years?
The hub of grand events, product launches, competitions, because you have the ability to potentially bet in real time on esports, and you have the ability to have venues like Sphere, which would have this technology and the ability to host thousands, and you have 150,000 hotel rooms 7 minutes from an airport. No city has that. It's really unmatched. Yeah. It's really a tremendous opportunity.
Well, you are local. You've lived here a long time, and I know you have a lot of experience on the board with After School All-Stars and Nevada Public Radio, and you're also right now looking to help local businesses, right? You're doing something that's really cool, offering some free services.
Yes. So I pledged a few weeks ago to help 25% of my billable consulting hours between now and the end of the year, to help a Main Street business locally that I normally wouldn't work with, because I tend to work with larger companies. But basically strategy, marketing, operations, expertise, just on a pro bono basis, just to help them, pivot their business, get through this COVID crisis. Maybe they have government money that they need to deploy in order to kind of determine what the new normal is, but totally pro bono business. Just want to help. I have one business I'm meeting with today that I've pledged to help that has locations in Henderson and Summerlin, and I have bandwidth to help one or two more. And but I just really want to help, and maybe some strategy advice, some marketing advice will allow a business to deploy, capital in the right way, or deploy their resources in the right way, and really get through it, and come out better on the other side.
And Nehme, I know that an offer like that is probably something that where you could be flooded with interest. But is there a good way, if somebody thinks that they are a good candidate to link up with you and take advantage of this amazing opportunity. Is there a best way to get in touch and at least start a conversation?
Yeah, they can go to my website, launchlv.com, and they can use the form on my website, launchlv.com, and just that'll get right to me. And then I'll follow up with a phone call. We'll see if we're a good fit. But, sometimes people are so busy running the business, trying to keep the lights on, they don't really take a step back and they think about, what image am I putting forth to the market? Which products are the most successful? Does this marketing spend actually have a return on investment? Are there any partnerships I can strike that will help me take me to the next level? And I've been doing that for publicly traded companies for my whole career. And now, to do it, help a Main Street business just get through. I'd love to do that. My wife's a kid's dentist, so she's dealing with this whole thing of going back to seeing patients. And I like the macro, but I also like the micro. So I definitely want to help.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, speaking of that, how can people, because I think a lot of people I even see on social media saying, I miss Vegas, I want to come back. Then we've got the locals and we have, like you said, small businesses. And we have some restaurants that have been here a long time that have already had to close their doors. What can we all do to support Las Vegas? Because people are also struggling with their own money right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Vegas will always be a value-based destination. The cost benefit of Vegas is so much higher than other cities because of the weather, the luxury, the size of the hotel rooms. Your dollar is going to go further even, now, and it's going to go further later. But I think the best thing to do, keep tabs on Vegas, keep in touch with these companies, get on their email list. They'll let you know when there's an offer. The casinos are going to extend offers locally, regionally, and to their database. And they're going to say, come back to us. And you may be able to get a luxury hotel at a significantly reduced price, and you realize the value of that. You should seize on it, and you should help Vegas get back on its feet. And, Vegas is going to lead the way in cleanliness. It's going to lead the way in guest service. It's going to continue to lead the way coming out of this crisis. And so it's just like any luxury good. If you see a Louis Vuitton handbag on sale they never have sales, you're going to jump on it. If you see a luxury resort on the strip that never has sales and all of a sudden you're able to get it half off, take a chance and seize on it. And that'll keep a lot of people employed, and that'll get a lot of, data to help the casinos adapt their product down the road. And, I think people are going to, have a flight to quality, and Vegas offers quality, relative safety versus going abroad for American traveler. And I think people are going to dip their toe in the water pretty quickly back in Vegas. And, we got the Raiders, we got the Golden Knights. If things return to normal, Vegas has a product mix that really no city can match.
Right.
Well, as we move through reopening, we'll stay in touch, because I know that there's going to be a lot to talk about in regard to reopening, but specifically with the Sphere and other projects that you're working on as well. We do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about everything Vegas.
Yeah.
I love this city. It's become my home. I love the entrepreneurial nature of it. I love the fact that it's really just a small town, and meeting people like yourselves over the years that have come out and supported, my launches on the Strip through the news gathering process. I really appreciate all the coverage you've given us over the years. Yeah. And, I'm happy to help. And I heard that heated pickleball discussion you had the other day. I want to weigh in because I'm a tennis player and everybody's asking me to start to play pickleball. And I'm a little bit torn because my knees are still good enough to run around a tennis court. But pickleball is kind of like the retirement community of tennis players.
It's true. I've never played. I still got to get out there and do it. But it's a hot commodity right now, apparently. So, we'll all have to play.
It's fun.
It is. It looks fun. I love it. Well, listen, I appreciate you listening to Vegas Revealed. I appreciate you coming on, and great insight for us today. Nehme, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.